Kolpack and Izzo is brought to you by Uncle Mattio's Pizza in the Prairie Stone Center at 45th Street and 17th Avenue, South Fargo. Uncle Mattio's Pizza Joint.
Your Saturday of fun starts right here, right now.
He actually brought the playbook for you, Kolpack. You could tweet this out and you could give it to everybody.
I just told him that's a foreign language to me, so you could give it to me and it wouldn't do me any good. Who has more personality, Tom Izzo or Dom Izzo?
Dom Izzo by far. I'm telling you, I think they're separated at birth at some point. I'm pretty sure they were.
The Fargo is ready to kick you out without a credential. I'm not going to mess with anybody today. Biggie, you got yours, right?
Yeah, Kolpack always brings the wrong one. He wants everybody else to follow the rules, but can't understand when people call him on it that rules are there for a reason.
Kolpack and Izzo starts now on 970 WDAY.
Good Saturday morning, everybody, and welcome to Kolpack and Izzo on 970 WDAY and WDAY.com. This final Saturday of February, the madness of March is already here as our February frenzy is underway as we will crown state hockey champions later today at Shields Arena. Kolpack, I've got my green tea. I'm resting the vocal cords here as best I can to get ready for tonight's championship game. We had a couple of good semifinals, including a great second game last night between Bismarck and Red River. So we're denied what some were hoping was the dream match between Red River and Central because the game Bismarck team knocked them off in overtime last night. But we'll see if Central can go for an unblemished season later tonight. That'll be preceded by the girls' championship, which is Bismarck and Grand Forks. Our coverage starts at 5 o'clock. We got a fun show, though. Final day of the Summit League basketball season. I saw you had your abacus out trying to figure out who's going to win the Summit League championship later tonight.
I have the scenarios in front of me, and for the next 2 hours, we're going to talk about every one of them.
It'll probably take about 2 hours to figure it out, right?
That was a nice job you and Dino did on the call. There's one thing I'm just a little perplexed at. Yes. And I tweeted it out last night watching the game. So if you're driving around at home, please try to follow along. I know this is radio, but try to be visual with me. If you're watching your 2-year-old wreck your house on the smart app, whatever, follow along with this. A gangster pinstripe suit, black.
That's very.
Hold on, no,
you're generalizing here.
Yes, a gangster black suit. Okay, that's. The shirt is a plaid type with a lot of lines going horizontal and vertical. I'm not really sure which way they're going when it's all said and done. And the tie is
It's fantastic.
Is a, what do you call it, slanted, striped tie. What in the name of Don Cherry's going on here, man?
I thought I looked pretty good last night. I'm not going to lie to you. That pinstripe suit, as you called, gangster suit, I only bring out for big nights. Like for Frisco a few years ago on our Fargo to Frisco show, I broke that one out. So wait till you see what I got tonight.
There's a lot going. Can you? I mean, please. Hey, I need to get out my shades.
Like I told you last night on the Twitter, jealousy does not become you, Mr. Author. So last time I saw you in a suit was down at Fargo to Frisco.
That didn't work out so well, did it? I got roasted.
Well, you're taking fashion tips from Big E, so. Don't take that too personally. We got a fun show lined up for you over the next hour and 50-some-odd minutes. Dave Richman will join us from Omaha. The Bison men, as Kolpack mentioned, going for a Summit League championship later tonight as they'll take on the Mavericks. If they win and USD loses, NDSU is the number 1 seed and wins the conference outright. If they both win, NDSU will share the championship. But correct me if I'm wrong here, USD will get the number 1 seed.
Well, most likely, But if Western Illinois and South Dakota State both win and NDSU and USD wins, I believe, and checking with Wes Offerman, I believe it goes to the Bison for the number 1 seed. Now, does it really matter in the whole scheme of things? The 1 and 2 seed is what you want to get anyway.
You get the
because
bye.
You play Saturday night. Yep. You don't get a bye. You get the day off. Well, so you don't play Sunday. Yeah. And every champion that we know of since we've been covering this has never played 3 straight days.
This
could be the year that changes.
Yeah. And the Coyotes play at IUPUI. That is no slam dunk there for USD. And they struggled with Western for a bit on Thursday before they pulled away and got that win. And the Bison lost at IUPUI. The whole league is just crazy when you look at it. And this, as you mentioned, this is going to be the year, I think we're going to get a team in the championship that's not the 1 or the 2 seed. I really believe that. I think you're going to have someone sneak in there as maybe the 4 or the 5. The Jacks could do it. Who
Big
knows?
E says, look out for the Jacks. They got one of the nation's best players, and Mike Dahm goes off for 51 points. The guy's hot heading into postseason, and you have that home court advantage, essentially, with the Jacks fans.
Yeah, and the thing with Dahm is, though, if he doesn't score 30, the Jacks don't win. That seems to be the case because he didn't get to that magic number against the Bison either time this year. Granted, I don't know if Fort Wayne forgot how to play defense against him because I think he had 51 and 42 in the 2 games that the Jacks played against Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne was a wacky team all year.
Was.
Preseason favorite, but just never could play defense at times, and at times just played it like a matador. Let him wave by into the hoop.
They're 7-8 going into the Summit League finale today for them at Western Illinois. So Dave's going to join us at 9:35. Grant Olson, he tells us he's good to go today. We tried to hook up last week, but he was formally announced either yesterday or Thursday as the new linebackers coach at Indiana State. He's going to join us at 9:50 to discuss his new gig in Terre Haute. My colleague Dean Wilson will join us at 10:20 to preview tonight's state championship game from Shields Arena between Bismarck and Red River. I know you follow high school hockey pretty close, obviously, with your son playing. And I made this point to Dean, and you've seen it as well. The rise of the West over the last 5 years can't be underestimated. That in the past, when I got here, it was just a slam dunk. You'd have 4 East teams playing in the semifinals. That's not the case anymore. The West has really improved its game.
They've been saying that, though, since the 90s, and I think the West had some moments in the 90s when it was getting pretty good with a couple teams. This is not Bismarck's first run at being a pretty good program. They've done it before. Minot has had some pretty good teams and pretty good players, even when you go back to the 90s. But as a whole, it's still only 1 or 2, 3 teams that are pretty good. Four on down, I disagree with you. I think 4 on down.
So it's top heavy, you're telling me?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's 3 teams, and then, Dickinson. Jamestown was a 4th team for a while, but didn't get through the tournament. Mm-hmm. And Dickinson is okay at best.
So tonight's matchup, Central, Bismarck. You got an early favorite? You're not calling the game. You're not covering it. You can give me a prediction on that.
Central's going to win this game. Bismarck, when you go to overtime, okay, let's just start with that. When you go to overtime as a late game, it just gets a little tougher for the body to heal. And plus, if I read this right, I think, and I watched it right, I should say, Bismarck didn't exactly run a lot of lines out there.
No, they were double shifting for a while.
Platson was almost triple shifting, I swear.
Yes, on that top line for Bismarck. So
and Grand Forks Central is running 4 lines.
They definitely did.
They have more lines than we had players at North High. I mean, they just got players.
Yeah, so we'll see if they can complete the unbeaten season. Dino's going to join us at 10:20 to preview that. And then, Kolpack, you got a taste of Class B girls basketball this past week, covering the Region 1. The champions of that were Kindred. Perry Piatz will join us, the head coach, at 10:35. They were seeded number 2 for the North Dakota Girls Class B tournament, which begins Thursday in Grand Forks. They're unbeaten. North Star is unbeaten. The Bearcats are the number 1 seed. Perry will join us to handicap his team's chances of going back to state for the second time in 3 years. Of course, they were the runner-up couple years ago to Bishop Ryan.
I was the tri-state beat writer this week with the Fairmount, Campbell, Tinta, Rossolt, South Dakota. I have to wonder, and I was going to try to look this up, but I didn't have time. How many schools out there in the country have representation from 3 states?
Yeah, I can't think of many.
Well, of course you wouldn't think of many, but there's only so many parts of the country you could do this in. Is there a section of New Mexico, the 4 corners there?
Corner states,
is there 4 corner high school down there?
With New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, and Wyoming, you're saying? Something like that?
Or maybe one of the...
Or corner Utah would be.
Corner of Tennessee?
Yeah, I don't know. That makes my brain hurt more than the Summit League tiebreaker standings.
Well, you're a great history mind.
Yeah, I'm not.
You're not a great geographical mind?
No, I tend to be a great geographical mind, but I don't know if that would... Hey,
tri-state.
You look at it for some of the co-ops in North Dakota, how far, like Edgeley, Cullum, Montpelier, who Kindred will play in the state tournament, that's not close. Those are 3 towns that are necessarily right next door to one another, but nothing like what you're talking about for some of those kids that have to travel to basketball practice. So Perry's going to join us at 10:35 to give us the lowdown on what's going on with his Kindred team. So that's our lineup. We're rocking and rolling on this Saturday. Glad you're joining us on Kolpack and Izzo on 970 WDAY and WDAY.com. Yes. Welcome back, everybody. Kolpack and Izzo on this Saturday morning. Dave Richman coming up in our next segment at 9:35. Kolpack, it might be the end of February, but football never really leaves us. And I've got 3 topics that I'm sure will spur the brainwaves for you on this February morning. You ready to roll?
Yep.
I'm sure you saw this on First Down here. Ole Miss is back in trouble with the NCAA, and they're hammering the Rebels. Lack of institutional control against Hugh Freeze, the head coach. They're going to be banned for a bowl game this upcoming year, and there might be more coming. This comes in lieu of that unbelievable recruiting class that the Rebels got in 2013, 2014. Hugh Freeze has denied all of this. Of course, all this goes back to me to draft night in Chicago when the Laramie Tunsil story broke. And Hugh Freeze denied it. We were there. It was just such a bizarre scene. It seems to me that Hugh Freeze has no regrets. If he cheated, he's okay going down with the ship. What do you make of this?
He's taking it to the end.
This is not good for Ole Miss because I think the NCAA is going to hammer him. I think this is just the start of what's going to happen here.
We're not talking about a pony excess situation
not death penalty,
here.
but it's in that. I think the worst is still to come.
It goes to show about head coaches. Hugh Freeze at one time was just the greatest thing ever and was the guy. He's the next Nick Saban, correct, in the Southeast Conference. This guy was the man. Well, I guess maybe we're finding out how he became the man. Yeah. If there's this much evidence, to me, there's too much evidence here. He's guilty, right? But he's defending it. He's saying he's innocent the whole way. Is that what you're saying?
What he's claiming, he says no matter how, when he looks back on it, the truth is every bit of the indignity he suffered on Wednesday was worth it. That's according to the USA Today. That's thinking that, and remember during the whole Tunsil thing, when Tunsil came out and said that he got money from an Ole Miss booster, which is, of course, one of the things that their allegations are against him outside of the other cheating allegations against Ole Miss. I remember that clear as day, that there were some red flags with the Tunsil deal. That, remember, he came out and said that night of the draft, I got paid by Ole Miss boosters.
It was just the most...
It was bizarre.
It was just, I can't even describe it.
Really
we were
weird.
looking at each other, and he's talking to the media, right? And then
and had no problem with it, too.
But then his agent came in and took him out of the media room, right in the middle
just
of
swooped in like Secret Service with the president. Get out of here.
And compare him to what the Carson Wentz AO1, doesn't do anything wrong. Yeah. Just the difference between two businesses, really.
Yeah, that's the end of the spectrum.
One was a thriving business and continues to be a thriving business in the quarterback. The other one just saw millions of dollars go down the tubes in a matter of an hour, and he's talking to the media, and his agent comes in.
And that was also after the video was posted of him allegedly smoking a bong, and that his draft stock plummeted literally within an hour. It was unreal. Second down, this is going to get your dander up. New Oregon football coach Willie Taggart is not speaking to one of the beat writers for the Ducks. This is after it's the student newspaper, I love this, broke the story on the strength and conditioning coach with the practices that apparently went above and beyond, since it hospitalized 3 players. Taggart wanted the article retracted. The paper is standing by its story, and now Taggart is refusing to speak with said reporter.
Let me ask you this. Can I throw a couple questions back at you? Did it happen?
It did happen.
It did happen, so it was true.
Yes.
So let's blame the messenger, Willie.
Yeah,
let's blame the messenger.
He feels the claims are inaccurate, instead claiming that players, quote, were allowed to tap out, but some overworked themselves and finished the workout to show they're not quitters, unquote. I know that's going to get your dander up on that, so.
It's the Donald Trump thing. Let's just blame every media. We are just the enemy now. We are enemy.
You're definitely the enemy. There's no doubt on that. I find it troubling, though, because Oregon then investigated itself. They had one of their head journalism professors investigate it and said, there's nothing inaccurate about this report. So that's Taggart's
good.
Off to
is that a student writer?
Yeah.
Good for him or her. Good for him or her to stick up and do your job.
This is a real bad situation for Taggart already. He's already had one of his assistants get canned after a DUI arrest, and now And now this, when he had 3 players hospitalized. They haven't even played a game
Here's
yet.
the other problem, too, is when you do something like this, when you point fingers at, say, a student newspaper, you're just continuing to keep the story going.
Right.
Right? Now somebody's doing a story on that story, on that you're accusing somebody of being inaccurate.
Win some games. Play defense. They can't do that in Oregon. Yikes.
I guarantee 95% of the people in the country would not really care what a student newspaper wrote about said program, but now it's on ESPN.com.
Right. Once you start refusing to speak to said reporter, that's gonna blow up. That's the nature of what we do.
Sorry, Willie.
Yeah.
Bad move.
Third down. Your guy, Deshaun Watson, said on Wednesday.
He is my guy.
He's going to participate.
Should have won the Heisman.
He's going to participate in all the drills at the NFL Combine, and I think, if not with the Carson Wentz notoriety, it's pretty close, as he's maybe the highest profile guy in a quarterback week draft going into the Combine, which starts later this week.
I don't like him for a first-round pick. I don't like him. I think he's too multidimensional. You look at some of these guys that are good runners. I don't know how long you last in the NFL. Those defensive ends in the NFL, they're pretty big and fast. Those outside linebackers, you got Kyle Emanuel playing outside linebacker. Yeah. He was a monster DN in college. Yeah. So you got such size, and to do the dual threat thing in the NFL, you need the Carson Wentz drop back pure passer. That's what works. That's what will work for the long term. How's Cam Newton doing these days?
He's taking quite a few shots. He won the MVP though a couple years ago.
How did Robert Griffin III do? He had one good year, but he's not a very big guy. Yeah, and eventually he got pounded.
Injury prone though. I like Newton way more than RG3. I'm not breaking any news there though. I think the real interesting thing is how weak this draft class is, and it goes back to what we saw last year,
what they said,
with what the Rams and the Eagles both did, and what makes the Browns move so bizarre. It's like, why? What were they thinking? They were here.
They're the Browns.
Man, it just makes it more bizarre about that whole mindset last year with what Cleveland did, because everybody knew. They told us. The agents told us it's a weak quarterback class in 17. If you want your guy, go get him. That's what the Rams did. We'll see if that works out with Goff. Eagles did that with Wentz.
It's really comical on the Browns, isn't it, when you think about it in those simple terms?
Well, now they're going to go get my guy, Jimmy G. They might part a first-round pick with him, which is crazy.
Your guy's going to have 2 years left on his career then, because he'll get pounded.
Probably in Cleveland. Bottom of the hour news and weather is coming up. Dave Richman, the head coach of the Bison men's basketball team, will join us next on Kolpack and Izzo on 970 WDAY and WDAY.com. Back on Kolpack and Izzo on this Saturday on 970 WDAY, WDAY.com. The craziness of March is right around the corner. A week from now, Kolpack, you are allowed to go to the Summit League tournament. I have been banned by numerous North Dakota State fans for my record at the Summit League tournament.
I'm sure John Wheeler is predicting a blizzard at about this time next week.
Right around Summit, South Dakota.
Somewhere around that area.
But the Bison men's basketball team has a chance at a conference championship later tonight. They will take on Omaha at 7 o'clock. There's about 18 different permutations if the Bison can somehow
No. There's more than that.
About 18,000?
And I'm sure our next guest has been up all night deciphering every one of these scenarios.
Dave Richman joins us from Omaha, the head coach of the Bison men, who always tells me it's never about anybody else. It's just about them. So are you scoreboard watching today?
No, not at all. Come on. I'm just going to stick my head in my room until 6:59, show up at the game, and no. So, the one thing I think there's South Dakota State, Denver's at 4. A couple of the other games start at 6:15, and then our game's at 7. So it plays out really well from a standpoint of, like we always say, we can control, and those games will be in progress and finishing up while we're still playing, and so we won't really have an idea what's going on with them anyways, which is good. We can focus on what we need to focus on.
Dave, you told me yesterday that the Summit has really improved its stock and its quality and its overall quality. What is it about the Summit? And you look at a team like Oral Roberts, which isn't even in the tournament, which has money, it has some tradition, it's pretty good. What is it about the rest of the league? Why has it gotten better?
I don't think you can sit there and pinpoint one thing, Jeff, but you're absolutely right. You look at a team like Oral Roberts, notorious, not just in the Summer League, the Mid-Con, but, nationally of having a tremendous amount of success and what Scott Sutton's done in that program, and they're not even in it. I just think that speaks to where the Summit League's at. I think you can see the facilities with where we're going to play tonight at Baxter Arena is really nice. Obviously, the Shack is beautiful. The new one in Vermillion is really nice. That goes into it and helps the recruiting. I think there's been some turnover in some coaches. Obviously, Craig's done a tremendous job at USD. John Coughlin's done a really good job at Fort Wayne. You can go up and down the board. When I got the job, I think, including getting Oral Roberts back in the league, there were 6 new head coaches, and so. I think it takes all those things into it, but also you got some talented young men that are excited to be a part of their program, and they're going out and representing their teams and their universities very well.
As you sit here tonight, a chance to get to 20 wins, that's a milestone mark in men's college basketball. What goes through your mind about this year's team that really stands out, or maybe even surprised you as you look back over the breadth of the season?
Well, I'm just very, very pleased with the progress that this team's made. And again, we've talked about it publicly, and, we average a 2.6 and when it comes to overall experience. And this is, since I've been the head coach, this is the youngest team that we've had in a sense. And, a couple people told me, early on, even really after that UND loss at home, that, it's part of it, mid-major basketball. It's a little bit of a transition year. You're going to go through those things. And, to be honest with you, that didn't sit very well with me. And I'm not going to sit there and look Dexter Warner and Carlin Dupree in the eye and say, hey, guys, this is a transition year during your senior year. Thanks for everything. We want to, that's been our plan that we've talked about. When I sat down with Gene and got the job, and I continue to visit with Matt, and our vision is to compete for championships every year. And, we've pushed this group really hard. We've held them extremely accountable, and thankfully they've responded, and they put themselves in a terrific position and got a great opportunity tonight to be one of 14 conference champions in 117 years of NDSU Bison basketball.
So specifically when you sat down with Gene and those discussions on, okay, we don't want this roller coaster type situation with mid-major basketball, does that mean, Dave, that I need this amount to recruit? I need this amount to maybe fly charter a couple times? What does that mean?
Again, it means all of those things. And again, I think it's just and even so, I credit our staff and our guys of a changed mindset of don't let outside expectations, influence you. And I think we were all fortunate to go through my first year to have a senior like Lawrence Alexander that, just went out and said, we're going to win. I'm going to do everything I can to win. And I think that set a great foundation. You talk about it your first and second year as a head coach, you want to lay some bricks, you want to lay a foundation, and Lawrence Alexander really set that tone. You go back to last year, we had a good year that finished, very well with a chance to go back to the NCAA tournament. And you go through last year with, without your leading scorer for 7-8 games and all that. So, again, I'm just very, very, very pleased. Certainly we've taken a couple charters, which helps. We haven't been afraid to explore a little bit outside of our area in the recruiting box. But still making sure we do our homework and getting the right kids that still want to be here and understand what it's about to be in North Dakota State.
Dave, Tyson Ward really seems to be the guy that fans are drawn to, the true freshman who I think early in fall practice maybe impressed you, maybe not right away, but certainly got your attention, and he seems to have really just ascended over the last half of the season. Describe his play this year.
Well, I just think, Dom, he's just such a talented young man. And, and from an exciting standpoint, it's a little bit how we do our recruiting. Craig Bowl used to talk about it. The one thing we all have an even playing field in is evaluation. And evaluation comes in a lot of different things. And part of that is, body type, what age. And Tyson was a young man, and he had a little tweak in his wrist. And so we had to get him some x-rays, a week to 10 days ago. And he came back, and, the x-rays thankfully were negative. But the doctor said, the other thing that's positive is his growth plates are wide open. And so you got a 6'5", 6'6", 18, 19-year-old freshman with some room to grow, and you can see that physically. So, the biggest thing that we've, continued to hold Tyson accountable is just maturing. He wants it so bad. He wants to please everybody, but sometimes when he makes a mistake, he compounds it, with another mistake. And I think that's where he's made the most progress of just, learning that you're not going to be perfect, especially as a true freshman, and you got to grow, you got to mature, and at every single opportunity.
Speaking of Craig, you're on the tail end of a long road trip here. You've been on the road since Tuesday. Do your guys still have a laser focus?
We talk about it. It was a long bus ride on Thursday, and a long day yesterday. But you think and you hope, and we'll find out. And if any team in the league is going to test your energy, your juice, it's going to be Omaha with the way they play. But there's plenty on the line. Our guys understand it. They've been extremely locked in and ready. And I would anticipate that coming tonight, and that's going to be, again, I really do think that's going to be the telltale factor is if we have the juice that we talk about, the energy to sustain 40 minutes of up-tempo basketball like they want to play, and doing the little things that are going to pay difference over the course of that game.
Dave, in the back of your mind, knowing you have either the 1 or the 2 locked up, does that make it, I don't know, more palatable or easier tonight, or do you not even worry about that right now?
Dom, again, I don't know what I am, a purist or whatever, a competitor. It really hasn't crossed my mind a whole bunch, to be honest with you. We're going to go out with a mindset that we're going to do every single thing in our power to win this game tonight at 7 o'clock, and we're going to hop on the bus at 9:30, 9:45 tonight on our way home, and then we'll figure out really how it plays out from a week from today. But our focus has been the last couple of days and even all week is this is championship week 1. We're rounding into championship week number 2 starting next Saturday, and we want to prepare ourselves to win tonight and ultimately for those 3 days coming up next week.
Dave, thanks for the time. Good luck tonight, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
I appreciate it, gentlemen. Have a good one.
That's Dave Richman, the NDSU men's basketball coach. Bison, Omaha, 7 o'clock tonight in the Summit League regular season finale. The other games today, as Dave mentioned, Denver and SDSU go at 4 o'clock at Frost Arena. USD plays at IUPUI at 6. Obviously, the Coyotes and the Bison are tied for first. Both those games are on ESPN3, so Kolpack, I know you'll be some surfing there tonight. The Bison in Omaha at 7, as is Fort Wayne and Western Illinois. That's a 7:30 tip, actually, in Macomb. The blog you posted yesterday made my head spin. I'm trying to read it right now. It just makes my head hurt on this. And to Dave's point, I think it's right on that the schools in the league made a conscious effort to put money into and support into men's basketball to say we've got to get it to a level where it's respectable around the country. Now, are they ever going to be a two-bid league, Kolpack? I don't believe so. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But the fact that a few years ago in the RPI, what were they up to, 11, 12? I mean, they were
at 11,
super
and
high.
they were sustained at 11 for a while. They've been around 14, 15, maybe as low as 16, but you got to consider there are 32 leagues in the country, so you were on the upper half of Division I basketball leagues on a consistent basis, and that's the thing. Some leagues can go 12, 13, and then
drop off the face of the earth.
Look at Conference USA. I think that's pretty low this year. But the Summit, every year now, you're looking at somewhere in the 12, 13, 14 range for an RPI, and that's pretty good.
The hard thing to do, and I mentioned this, they win today, that's 20 wins. If I think the 5th straight year. Mid-majors don't do that, Kolpack. You know the game as well as I do. There are teams that bubble up, like a UNI, Ben's team from 2010 that made the Sweet 16. Then they never made the tournament again until last year. George Mason with that unbelievable run to the Final Four. They'd never been heard from again. To be consistently good at mid-major basketball, and I'm throwing Gonzaga out and Butler out because they're not mid-majors. They've made Final Fours or Elite Eights in Gonzaga's
They're the
case.
modern-day St. John's,
right?
What they are.
They're not in that category. But if you're consistently like this, either in the tournament or threatening the tournament, it's impossible to do at this level. It really is, and that was what makes NDSU's run here over the last 5 years really, really impressive. So we'll see what happens tonight. Bison win, Western. And
here's what has to happen. Yes, quickly. The Bison have to win, and if Bison and South Dakota both win, that means Denver is going to have to lose
to SDSU. And Western would have to lose to Fort Wayne?
Western would have to beat Fort Wayne.
Okay.
That puts Fort Wayne at 7-9. If the Bison, then you have Omaha as a third-place team. NDSU would have swept Omaha.
Correct.
And the next highest... Your performance against the next highest team in the standings gives you the top seed.
And USD split with Omaha.
And NDSU would have swept Omaha.
And that's why the Bison would be the number 1 seed.
Repeat after me.
No, I will not. We need a commercial break. I'll try to do it then. Grant Olson will join us from Terre Haute. Coming up next is the former Bison linebacker coming back to the Missouri Valley. That's next on Kolpack and Izzo on 970 WDAY and WDAY.com. Final segment of Hour 1 of Kolpack and Izzo rolls on here on 970 WDAY, WDAY.com. Kolpack, I'm getting old with our next guest here, who's now he's a hardened college football assistant coach. Because I can remember interviewing him when he was just a plucky freshman getting reps in the Bison linebacker corps.
Yeah, whining why the Gophers never offered him one of those deals.
We welcome on one of NDSU's all-time greats, former captain and a 3-time champion at NDSU. Grant Olson joins us here on Kolpack and Izzo, now the linebackers coach at Indiana State. He's back in the Missouri Valley. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Well, describe this the change here. You've been in Laramie for the last couple of years, and how did this all come about and to go to Indiana State?
Yeah, well, Coach Mallory was our defensive backs coach at Wyoming there for a couple of years. So we were there together for 2 years and sat across the table from each other every day in our defensive staff meeting room, and just ended up talking a lot of football. He was working with the safeties, and I was working with the linebackers. So we just ended up working together a ton. This winter, he kind of right around the National Coaches Convention and those things, he let me know that he was going to be interviewing at Indiana State, and he said if he got the job, he'd like to hire me. And he ended up getting the job and those things, so then called me right away and let me know he wanted to take me with, and I was all on board. And I ended up calling Coach Bowl, and I kept him abreast of the situation the whole time, but he was really supportive and really happy for me, as were all the coaches at Wyoming. They were really thrilled. And then have been out here for about 3 weeks now. So far it's been pretty good.
Where do you think Craig made the most strides since you've been at Wyoming?
I would definitely say changing the culture. That's just something I know Coach Bowl believes in. It's the same thing we're doing here. Just getting guys to buy into the little things, about doing the little things right, and whether that's touching a line in a drill or finishing past the line or proper technique, all the little things that don't require any talent. I know that's what we're preaching on. I know it's the same thing Coach Bowl preached on. I think once kids buy into that, and then I think it sets you up to win a lot of football games.
Grant, what did you tell Coach Mallory and the other guys on the staff about the Missouri Valley? Obviously, you know it quite well.
Yeah, well, one, I told them it's great football. Top to bottom, I do believe it's the best conference year in and year out. And I know I told those guys, listen, man, this conference is going to prepare us for the playoffs like you wouldn't believe. It's one of the first things I told the linebackers when I met them all. I said, guys, you already know this is a great conference, but once we find a way to get into playoffs, anything can happen from there. And we got to be ready to roll. People are going to play hard, and don't underestimate any team. The best teams in this conference are consistently going and beating FBS opponents year in and year out, and whether that be NDSU or Illinois State or whoever that would be. So mainly, this is great football, and don't let the fact that it's not FBS fool you. Yeah, it is great football.
Do you feel like you have a lot of growth yet to do there? Is it pretty established? Where do you feel like the program is right now as you take over? Do you have a long way to go? Do you have a short way to go?
Well, in some ways we got a long way to go, and in some ways we got a short way to go. It kind of depends on the way you look at it, I guess, or what area you're talking about. I definitely think that there's a bit of a foundation here already. They had a really good year just a couple of years ago and went to the playoffs. But at the same time, there's also some things just within the program in terms of continuing to lay a better foundation that we definitely need to do. And there's no shame in that. We're working our butt off right now, and kids are buying in. And shoot, in the 2 weeks already that I've been here for workouts, I've seen tremendous improvement. So
how do you get by?
We got a lot of kids that are hungry, and I'm looking forward to working with them.
How do you get by the facilities? Obviously, it's not up to snuff with a lot of part of the valley. Let's call it like it is. Mm-hmm. How do you get over that?
Well, I think it's just your attitude and the way you go about it. I told these kids, and they were shocked because they asked about, Coach, what was it like when you were playing at NDSU? And I told them about what our rent check situation was like. I told them about what our facilities were like. I told them that my senior year, after winning 2 national championships, going into fall camp, I got 1 T-shirt. And I had no shame in that. And they were really shocked. They're like, really? We figured you would have got a lot more than that. I'm like, no, guys, it's not what it's about. It's not about how many pairs of cleats you got. It's not about any of those things. We're going to go out and we're going to outwork those guys. And I think that is an advantage for us. I think that's one of the hard things about some of the FBS schools and things like that is kids feel entitled because they have fancy facilities and they have all these fancy shoes and different jersey combinations. We're not going to have that stuff. And that's going to help us build a culture and a mentality of being tough guys that'll come out and hit you. So I'm really excited about that.
I have to ask you, is it ironic in a little bit of sense that you're coaching now at a team that gave you one of the most maybe disappointing losses of your college career?
You know, it is a little bit. It is a little bit. And it's funny, just the other day, actually, Shakir Bell was actually back in the weight room, and I met him, and that was like a holy smokes moment. You know, that was pretty cool. I was like, you know, and the guy that introduced me, he pointed him out and stuff, and he gave Shakir a little heads up. So I was like, hey, man, you know, I've tackled you about 20 times in my career and stuff. So that was actually really cool for me. I really enjoyed meeting him. But at the same time, you know, in 2013, we got about 3 or 4 kids on the team that actually played in that game. So it's kind of funny talking to them a little bit just about some different things. But you know, I don't think it's any different than being in any other Valley school. You know, it's a great conference top to bottom, and really looking forward to being back and being able to compete against some of these really good teams.
How you get over missing the mountains? I saw several tweets of you up in the mountains doing some hunting.
You know what? That's a great question, and I know Coach Bull is funny. He actually gave a talk on this at the National Coaches Convention. He was one of the keynote speakers, and he talked about just making whatever place you're at, making it great. And you know, I'm trying to, I guess, focus on not what I'm missing or not what isn't here, but what is here. You know, I look around and I know, just for me personally, things I'm going to enjoy. There's about 5 golf courses in town that I know I'll get out and enjoy. There's a lot of cornfields. There's a lot of ducks and geese. I know I'm going to get out and enjoy maybe trying to hunt some of them. So that's I guess my message or my point in mentality is, you know, what are the good things that we have here that are awesome, and let's enjoy the heck out of them. You know, Terre Haute's about within 4 hours from St. Louis, Cincinnati, Louisville, Nashville, Indianapolis, and Chicago. And you know, shoot, like, look at all the fun things you can go do on a weekend. So there's some disadvantages and there's some advantages, but we're going to choose to look at the positives.
Hey, it was great to catch up with you. Congratulations on the new gig, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you before football season gets going, okay?
Absolutely, no doubt about it. When you guys come out to Terre Haute, I'll take you out too. We'll find a good spot. We'll go reminisce. So
absolutely.
Make sure you guys come out for the game. All right.
Sounds good. Thanks, Grant.
Absolutely. Take care.
All right, Grant Olson, new linebackers coach at Indiana State. He answered one of your questions just like a coach would. He's got it already on the brain, doesn't he?
Does that mean we're going to rip it up on Friday night in Terre Haute? When do the Bison go there?
It's early October, so October 7th when the Bison play against Indiana State. That's the end of hour 1. We'll come back. We got to get into the biggest story of the week surrounding North Dakota State, which is the slashing of its athletic budget. That's coming up. We come back on Kolpack and Izzo on 970 WDAY, WDAY.com.
Kolpack and Izzo is brought to you by Uncle Mattio's Pizza in the Prairie Stone Center at 45th Street and 17th Avenue, South Fargo. Uncle Mattio's Pizza Joint.
Every time I come, it's windy.
Well, half the wind's out of his mouth.
Yes,
enough of that.
He used to be that way at home. Now it's nice and calm at home.
How did you get a word in?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I just sat there and my eyes rolled.
Here comes hour 2 of the 2 most talkative guys in the Red River Valley.
He'll be fine. It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You know, you wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
Well, you know me, Dom. I want to be perfect.
The guys who ask the tough questions.
And the questions were like, I love flowers. Do you agree or disagree? And then it's like, do you cry during movies? Agree or disagree?
Oh, my God.
And just all these ridiculous questions. You're just going through, and you're like, I don't know how it's going to, affect my draft stock here if I'm more of a dog or a cat person.
Kolpack and Izzo continues on 970 WDAY.
That's the 1-year anniversary of our interview with Joe Haig, because it happened on the Saturday of the NFL Combine. They moved the Combine back a week this year, but that's when that happened, was this time last year.
And he obviously answered the dog and cat question
got it right.
correct. It was great to catch up in a sense with Steve Bontrager as a former Fargo Moorhead Fever coach, and watching the ESPN3 broadcast of the Bison Oral Roberts. Steve Bontrager is an Oral Roberts alum, and since he got out of coaching, got into the golf business, had some health issues in the last few years, but it's good to see him back, and he had some great one-liners in doing the Bison game.
I wasn't able to hear them.
I'm going to go back. When I covered the Fever, this was 1992, 93, I believe. He was one of these coaches that was just awesome to be around, because the media room of sorts back in those days was right next to the coach's office of the Fargo Fever, or where they conducted their operations anyway, post-game. And he'd come in and he'd go, Johnson, I'm going to cut him. He goes, you can run with that. It's not going until tomorrow's papers, right? I go, yeah. He goes, I haven't told him yet, but I'm cutting Johnson. I had enough of this stuff. And he'd tell me things like that. He was just great to be around, but he had some great one-liners, like if a dog sleeps in the garage, does that make him a car?
What does that mean?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it means several things. Is it obvious that A.J. Jacobson's a shooter or not? I mean, I don't know. So
Wow.
it was some good stuff. But anyway, good to see Steve Bontrager back in the flow of things.
So that day, Wednesday, when the Bison played at Oral Roberts, also the news broke about North Dakota State and its upcoming and impending budget issues. I know Mike McFeely had President Dean Brashani on his show yesterday. And now we know, Kolpack, what the athletic department will face. This is something that has been long rumored, and now the number is known. You and I both visited with athletic director Matt Larson on Wednesday. We tried to get Matt today. He had a conflict for his schedule as he's down in Arizona today. The number is $400,000 a year.
Or about $440 a year.
He said it was a moving target.
Correct.
He said when he told me on Wednesday. So it's over $800,000 over this biennium over the next 2 years that has to be cut. He reiterated to both of us, no sports are going to be cut, no reductions in scholarships, and nothing touching cost of attendance. So I ask you, where in the world are they going to do this without affecting those three things?
You're going to have to come up with, I think, a combination of things. You'll have to probably raise it, and that's what they're doing right now, I'm sure. They're going to some people who have some bucks in Arizona saying we're this much short. Now, it'd be easy if you got an FBS game and say, okay, here's $650 done, end of discussion. But does this mean Jack Mon, the head fundraiser, drives a bus, or is Scott Walken going to be helping with the cleanup crew? I mean, I'm being facetious there, but you're going to have to come up with some combinations.
You got to be creative now, right?
A little bit. And they're not hiring a couple positions now. I don't know if that is part of the part of this cut already. Yeah, it was already in this budget. They're going to hire nutritionists and they're going to hire facilities guys, and they're not doing that. So that was going to be part of this year's budget. That's going to be off the table. You're going to have to come up with some ideas that the general public is not going to see.
The question, I guess, I got quite a bit was, how is it not going to affect the product on the floor? And that's, or on the field, where if you're, say, maybe not getting new helmets like they got, I know that was independently financed by alums that wanted NDSU to have the green helmets or something of that, where they're not getting new jerseys, or, they can't replace pads because of that. Does that eventually show itself in on-field performance?
But I think we need to first, let's be clear. It's a $22 million budget, just north of 22.03 million.
The athletic budget is.
And this 40% cut is from the state appropriated funds. It's not 40% of the budget. It's 40% from the state appropriations, which is $2.1 million per year. That's what the money NDSU athletic department gets from the state legislature. They're losing 40% of that.
Of the $2.1 million.
Correct.
I'm not a math major, so I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to stay with you. I'm just trying to stay with you here.
Correct. So you're talking about a very, I'm not going to say it's a small part of the budget, but it's not major in my mind. $400,000 a year in a $22 million budget. To me, there's got to be ways you can figure that out. Nickel and dime here and there, so to speak. I think you can make that up now. And again, you can raise that too. I mean, Teammakers raised a record amount this year, $4.3 million.
$4.3 million was the number. Yep.
And they have other revenue sources, which I think can bring that up to 4.8 as far as foundation funds, not foundation, but endowment funds or whatever. So I think it's not like UND's situation, Tom.
Why is it so different?
Well, because UND sponsors 20 sports.
That's the biggest one, as opposed to NDSU's 16. And that's obviously number one on UND's why it's so different.
Do the math
UND
there.
and
I mean, you talk about that many more, and plus women's hockey is not cheap. You have to have women's hockey.
Right.
I heard the argument. Why don't they just cut women's hockey? No, you cannot do that. There's this thing called Title IX that they'll have a little chat with you. Put it that way if you try to do that.
Now, the other issue, and you brought this up, and I blogged about it. I know you wrote about it earlier in the week, is the FBS game, because Matt Larson told me it hurts not having it in 2017. Yep, for me as an FCS Rube, I love the fact the Bison are playing Eastern Washington. But in the brass tacks of it, this is how FCS teams keep their athletic department alive. And we've begrudged some teams like North Carolina A&T
or Nicholls State playing a couple
when they played three in 1 year. But that's how they keep their athletic department afloat. And in this reality, NDSU's now in it, and they need that FBS game.
And it's the reality of the price of success.
Right.
When you're 8-3 and winning 5 in a row, including over some major teams like Iowa and Kansas State.
Right.
The problem is
who's calling you back? No one's calling
Oregon
you back.
State said, "Okay, we'll do it in 2020." That's $650,000 the Bison are getting. What's Colorado in 2024?
I think it's 700.
Is that
I think it's
700?
a little bit more than that. But yeah, but now I blogged about this. The Power 5 options.
Who's left?
There's not. Well, the teams that are out there, they're really interesting, but I don't think they'll go for it. Florida State, Georgia Tech, Big E would love this. Miami, and I'm talking Miami in Florida, not the Redhawks in Ohio. Oklahoma doesn't play FCS, so I don't think that's a legitimate one. Oklahoma State, your guy Mike Gundy. TCU, now they did play South Dakota State, so the Horned Frogs would be an option. Arkansas.
Bielema will not do that. Brett Bielema knows NDSU football, knows the physicality of it. Former Wisconsin coach. He wouldn't schedule the Bison when he's at Wisconsin. Certainly won't.
How about the next guy, Jim McElwain in Florida? He probably won't either. He's got some although he is playing Eastern Washington in 2020 because he's an alum of the Eagles.
But he was at Colorado State.
Right.
When that was 20-7, I want to say the score, but it was worse than that.
Yeah. So no Florida.
No
Ole
Florida.
Miss. They might have a new coach by then. Ole Miss is open in 2018.
It's a possibility.
The last one is South Carolina with Will Muschamp, who lost to an FCS team in Georgia Southern. So that's, and I didn't include the Big Ten because they're not allowed to play FCS.
But you're a great scheduling mind. If you were to pick one, who do you think would be the most willing to schedule the Bison?
TCU would. They still play FCS teams. The other ones, though, I mentioned, maybe in the SEC with Ole Miss and South Carolina. I agree with you with Arkansas and Florida because the two coaches there know NDSU pretty well. But that's the issue. And now if you don't get any of these, Kolpack, does the group of 5 call you back? I don't think so. I don't think the MAC's calling NDSU.
Bison fans would be okay at TCU. Is there still not the direct flight to Dallas?
I believe so. That'll work. Fort Worth is right there where TCU's campus is. But my point, the Sun Belt, they're not going to, what would they pay you? $250, $300? They're not going to get you the money that NDSU would like right now to make up for the shortfall they're going to have in their department.
Now, the AD said they're really trying hard for 2018.
Right. So that, I look at these teams that still have an opening, and I'm like, well, that's where you go. If you want to get paid, that's where you go. You don't go to the American or Conference USA or the Sun Belt or our friends in the MAC. They don't have that kind of money.
See, the problem now with FBS is NDSU has a good fan base. So these schools in the upper Midwest like Iowa State, Colorado State, Kansas State, they don't really care so much, I think, about the attendance factor that NDSU brings.
Right.
They really don't need that with the TV revenue. It's not about, and that was the argument for the Gophers scheduling NDSU, saying, well, look, you could fill half a TCF Bank Stadium. Well, if the money the Big Ten is getting,
right.
It's really not a big deal if you bring half of Fargo, half of North Dakota to Minneapolis. That's not really part of the discussion anymore. It used to be at one time, correct?
Yes.
You're a TV mind.
Absolutely. But now that the Big Ten
why would they
they're
care?
getting $40 million for each school.
They don't care if they bring
no way
20,000 Bison
that's
fans.
not even a blip on the radar. But that's the next part of this. I'm really curious. And this also, Kolpack, may change their philosophy and who they schedule. They may have to go out of their comfort zone, like one of these schools, to get paid. And maybe play an opponent
they already have.
That's so far above, but I'm saying so far maybe above them, above an Iowa, to say, we got to take care of the Bills. We're going to have to play a school. Chris, you're going to have to play a team.
And this is the first time we've heard of this argument. This is the first time where North Dakota State, with the big budget, needs to schedule an FBS to help the budget.
Right.
That's the first time since we've covered Division I football, starting in 2008, that this has been part of the argument.
Something to definitely keep an eye on because these teams are filling up their schedules for 18. We'll keep it up. You can post it on that. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll talk some state hockey. We'll wrap up the season tonight. Dean Wilson will join us, my colleague on the broadcast, next on 970 WDAY and WDAY.com.
Welcome back, Kolpack and Izzo, as we head to the final minutes of the show. Nice job, gentlemen, on the call on the North Dakota State Hockey Tournament. My colleague here, Mr. Izzo, on the play-by-play. And our next guest, brings an element, shall we say, of class to the duo, Mr. Dean Wilson. Good morning, Dean.
Good morning, class. I've never been called that before.
Well, I'll say this: you dress much better than Dom.
Well, here we go. It's championship night tonight. We've got the team we expected to be there in Grand Forks Central and Bismarck, who knocked off Red River in a great hockey game last night. I guess first off, describe the morning of the championship game in your days of coaching. What is that like in leading up to the face-off?
You know, you feel a lot of stress because you're after 3 days you're tired, but you got to suck it up, and you're excited. You're trying to overanalyze sometimes and think of what you got to do, but it's like I said, it's kind of the haze in the barn. Just stay out of the way and let those guys play.
So in reality, it's really a little bit like the Herb Brooks, hey, we're way past big speech time, or I say that's Gene Hackman and Hoosiers. But you know what I'm saying? You just go into do you almost have to temper it down a little bit, guys, and say, hey, just go play your game?
Yeah, sometimes you can't over-prepare. You don't need to do the Vince Lombardi today when you're talking to your players. You just kind of let them take charge. I loved it because it seems like every year that we are fortunate to get that far, that you usually got great leadership in the locker room. You got kids that that are goal-oriented. They're set in their ways, and suddenly you just have to let them take care of business themselves.
I think Bismarck's going to have a tough go of it today, Dean, and tonight, because of this reason. Number one, they had to play an overtime game in the late game. Number two, I think they short-shifted their lines a little bit. I mean, Platino's out there all the time. What's your thoughts on that? I think it's going to be a 5-1 game, personally.
I'd parallel it pretty close to your thoughts. I think, my thoughts are they going to run out of gas in the third period? You looked at them, those jerseys were all drenching wet. They gave their heart and soul, and they played and beat a great Red River team, So I would agree with you, that last night, you hydrate hard, you get the pizza in you get a good night rest. Mike Peluso's been there before in many levels, so he knows how to prepare those guys. How long do you let them sleep in and charge up? You got to get food in them again, to prepare. But I think you're absolutely right about how they are they going to have the stamina to be able to pull it off. And I think another guy that had a real workout last night that he's got to do it again is Kessler in net.
Dean, when you look at Central, what stands out to you? What really impresses you about their team?
You see a team that works well together. They're well coached, but they have poise, and you can see the maturity. Like I watched them, yesterday, and you know what? They already knew it's time management. 3 minutes ago, they go, we really don't need a goal here. They're playing keep away. They're moving it around, waiting for that perfect goal. But I think more important than that, and they knew this, is just killing time. They knew that, let's save our energy. Let's move it around. If it's there, we'll take it. If it's not, we're okay still. They're at every level, and I can't tell the difference between the first guy and the 20th guy out there, that they keep their cool. It's all about discipline and just smart hockey, and that's what they give. They go, we need this for tomorrow night, and we're going to do it.
What strikes me is their confidence with the puck. You don't see them panicking with the puck. Like, I get the puck. Oh, no, I got to get rid of it. What am I going to do with it? They have such confidence in their puck handling ability that I think they're able to take that extra second. Okay, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here, or I'm going to go there.
You talk about good ice presence. I told Doms yesterday it'd be a good stat to see time of possession. I bet you it would be, it could have been 70-30 last night, the percents of how they were controlling the puck, cycling, give and goes, moving it down low. No turnovers. They're giving it to a teammate. And another thing that they do well, and a lot of the upper-end teams do well, which I believe Bismarck does well too, is that you know what to do when you don't have the puck. Get to open ice. Get open. And those guys, they support each other. They're coming up the ice together, not the one-man show trying to make it happen. They're coming up the ice together, and that's a dangerous combo. But you're right. They got great poise, great confidence, and the ice presence. They see the ice well.
Dean, before we let you go, what's it going to take for Bismarck to pull an upset tonight outside of, or maybe it will require Zach Kessler to make 50-some-odd saves to steal this tonight?
You know what? Peluso said it best, and I smile because he's got a great game plan. He knew yesterday what he had to do. He said, you know what, he talks about being short-staffed, but I think he's got a few guys banged up, and maybe he keeps Jim Plous away off the bench so he doesn't get any poor advice. But anyways, he knows what they got to do. He knows they're going to spend time in their end, and they got to play well defensively. They've got to, and don't get me wrong, they got the Irie kid. I mean, they got guys that can put the puck in the net too, but they got to wait for Central to make some mistakes. And they're high school kids. They will, but they won't make a ton of them, and play great defense. Kessler's got to stand on his head, and they got to keep that game tight to roll into that third period to give them an opportunity like they totally did against Red River.
Great stuff, my friend. I look forward to seeing you later tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's a good time. Even up top, my hands are sweating. You remember that feeling again, and it's a good feeling.
Thanks, Dean. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Dean Wilson, 3-time state champion head coach, my broadcast partner. Our coverage begins at 5 o'clock tonight on WDAY with the girls' championship game between Bismarck and Grand Forks. The Blizzard going for a third straight championship. Grand Forks played Bismarck in the 2015 title game. The Blizzard won that one, the first of their back-to-back titles. And then the boys' championship follows about a half hour after the conclusion of that. Central, unbelievably, has not won the state title since 2010. Bismarck, of course, won it in 2014. This is the third time in 4 years they're playing in the state championship
This is the start of 4 straight weekends for you and
is.
the WDY team in doing really marathon coverage. It looks to me like you're off to a good start. The voice is off to a good start.
It's doing okay. I got my tea here. I'm not going to talk for the next 6 hours after that. You should be around.
Just don't be hanging around Big E all weekend, and you'll be fine.
Yes, that's exactly right. We'll take a break. We'll get ready for our next state tournament, the Girls B, which goes on in Grand Forks. Head coach of the Kindred Girls is Perry Piatz. He was at the game last night. Actually, I saw him. He'll join us next on Kolpack and Izzo on 970 WDAY and WDAY.com. Last half hour of Kolpack and Izzo on this Saturday on 970 WDAY, WDAY.com. We wrap up the North Dakota hockey season tonight. A week from now, we'll put the curtain down on the girls' Class B basketball season in North Dakota up in Grand Forks, where the 8 teams have been determined. The bracket came out yesterday. We'll begin our coverage on Thursday from the Alaris Center. We'll have a new champ in girls' Class B. Shiloh Christian was defeated in their region final, so we will crown a new champ. We've got a couple returning teams and some new blood as well. One of the returning teams from a couple years ago, the Kindred Vikings, back for the second time in 3 years. Of course, they were the runner-up in 2015. Undefeated going into the state tournament as we welcome on Perry Piatz, the head coach of the girls basketball team at Kindred. First off, your thoughts on the hockey game last night. I saw you there. What'd you think?
Well, it was pretty good. Actually, my nephew plays the goalie for Bismarck High, so Zach Kessler, and so he did a great job last night, and I was happy for him to pull out a win and go for a state title tonight.
What does a guy from Napoleon know about hockey?
Not a whole lot. They live in Bismarck, so they moved there a long time ago, and he's played a lot of hockey in his day. I remember them coming here and staying at our place when they play in these travel hockey tournaments and bring all their hockey gear in their house and make it stink. And so that's what I know about hockey.
Let's talk about your season here. First off, another region championship on Thursday night. You knocked off Tri-State, playing them for the third consecutive season. Describe your year, and you have to have hit all your expectations with an unbeaten season to this point.
Yeah, I think so. At the beginning of the year, I think we knew we had a pretty good team, but anytime you go undefeated, obviously a lot of good things have to happen. And our kids, I've always talked about our senior leadership and how they've done such a good job. And anytime we get into a little funk, we always find a way, or they always find a way to make good things happen. And it's our team's so well balanced. I think our leading scorer is at 12.4, and then we got a 10, and then 2 9s and 2 7. So the nice thing about our team is that we're just so well balanced, and they're not afraid to share the basketball, and they play so hard. So, when you put all that together, it's the coach's dream. So it's been a lot of fun.
And you got a 7th grader who was one of your leading scorers in the region title game. Girl named Abby Duxer, 5'8", 7th grader. Were you any hesitancy of playing somebody that young this early?
Not after I saw the way she played during the year. She's been just getting better and better the whole year. She's one of those kids that has great instinct. She knows where to go. She knows how to play. And she just brings great energy to our team. And so she's been a welcomed addition. We almost didn't even move her up this year. We went round and around about it with the coaching staff, and then I talked to our administration because this is the first time I've ever brought a 7th grader up in my 25 years as a head coach. And you know how that goes, and it's like everybody's like, "Oh, what are you doing, Piatz? Bringing up a 7th grader?" And so it wasn't an easy decision. And actually, Steve Hall, our superintendent, goes, "Perry, the easiest thing would be not to move her up." And I'm like, "Well, you know what? She might be the difference. I think we're going to have a pretty good team. We might have a chance to get to the state tournament again. What if she's the difference?" And I think she has been part of the difference. And she's been a great addition. And our seniors, I got to give them credit again, and even some of our juniors who've lost playing time because she's stepped up and taken some of their playing time. They've been nothing but good to her and to the whole team. And so that's why I say it's just been a good family atmosphere with our kids, and they've taken her under their wing and had no problem playing right beside her because she's good.
Perry, I wanted to ask you, I guess, a little bit off of that you have quite a few girls who were with you in Minot 2 years ago to play Bishop Ryan in the championship. How much do you rely on that experience, especially for a girl like Abby, who's going to go through this for the first time starting on Thursday?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing for us, especially our point guard, Michaela Ranke, is, been there. She was the point guard back on that team too, so she's got a lot of experience, and anytime your point guard is out there as your coach on the floor, that helps. And then obviously Brooke Hyatt played a lot back in that year, and then Kira Broughton came off the bench and played a little bit too, so that's a big thing. And, the 7th grader, you talk about her, she's only 12 years old still.
Wow.
And,
think about that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, just think about that. How many 12-year-olds are playing the way she is, and on a team that's ranked second in the state and on a team that's good. Sometimes the 7th graders will play on teams that aren't quite as good, but she stepped right up and played with us this year and showed she belonged. That was the biggest thing early on is when she came into the games, people were like, "Oh, yeah, maybe she is pretty good," and she does belong. And like I said, she fits right into our system, and she plays hard on the defensive end, and she's not afraid to share the basketball. And and I don't think she knows any better as a 12-year-old, so she just goes out and plays like at the regional championship. But I think one of the biggest plays is when she hit a 3-pointer in the 4th quarter when they cut it to 7.
Yep.
So she's just one of those kids that knows how to play, and I don't think the pressure or the bright lights will affect her at all.
Michaela Ranke is heading up to UND. What's the upside? What does UND see in her?
They see everything that she does. It's not her scoring. I mean, she doesn't score a lot for us. I think she's at 10 points a game or whatever, and she could score more, and she does at times when we need her to, but at the same time, she just distributes the ball, and defensively, she always gets the toughest matchup. Like the other night, she had Grefsrud, and she held her to, I think she had 2 points, and I mean, she's just one of those kids that's around the ball all the time. She gets her hands on the ball a lot. I mean, she's averaging like 5 steals a game, 4 or 5 assists, and I mean, she's just one of those kids that is a competitor. She plays 4 sports for us out in Kindred, and so yeah, she's one of those kids that just knows how to play, and she's competitive, and I think that's what the coaches up in UND can see.
Perry, everyone looks at the field. They look at your team. They look at North Star, the 2 unbeatens. I think for a lot of girls basketball fans, Macy Quilvang's going to get a lot of the attention, the 6'5" standout who's going to play at North Dakota State next year. What do you make of this field, and what do you assess your chances here? You have Edgley Cullen Montpelier in your first game on Thursday.
Yeah, obviously, as a coach, you got to play one game at a time. And Edgley's got a really good big girl, too. She's a 6-footer, the NC girl. And I used to play amateur basketball with her dad back in the day, and he could play. So that'll be fun to go out and see him. But, yeah, she's a good one. And then they got a couple good guards to go along with her. So that'll be a pretty good test right away. And so, obviously, we'd like to get back to that championship game again and see what can happen. But, as a coach, you got to play one game at a time, and you can't play in the championship unless you win the first 2. So that's what we're focused on right now.
I always look at the program, the system. You must feel like your system at Kindred's really in high gear, because when you can do it one year, that's one thing. But when you repeatedly threaten to get back there must be something else going on, Perry. What is that?
We've been blessed with great athletes. I mean, it's just been, I've been the head coach for 6 years now, and we were fortunate enough to be to the state tournament 3 times. But, it all started 6 years ago, and we finally found a way to get over the hump and win a big game. And like I said, I think I've put in a system that, it's just constant pressure for 32 minutes for 94 feet. And like I said, I've been fortunate enough to be deep almost every year. So we play 7, 8 girls. And when you can do that at the Class B level, I think that's a huge thing. And like I said, this group of seniors, I think, is like 67-5 over the last 3 years. And they just know how to win, and they go out and they compete. And that might be one thing that, I don't know, I instill on the girls, is just to go out every night and just compete and work hard. And I've been fortunate enough to have kids that have done that, and they love playing that style of basketball. And when you can pressure girls and get them flustered and turn them over and get easy baskets, I think it's been very good for us.
Barry, thanks for the time this morning. Look forward to seeing you on Thursday up in Grand Forks.
Oh, I hope it'll be fun again. Thanks, guys.
That's Perry Piatz, the head coach of the Kindred girls basketball team, number 2 ranked in the state, number 2 seed for the upcoming state girls basketball tournament in Grand Forks. Real quick question before we got to go to break. You were covering the Region 1 at the Shack. That's the first time high school basketball at the new facility. What did you think? EDC is going to be there later this week.
I liked it. It felt pretty good as far as hominess. You don't see the upper deck behind me on the south side, so there probably wasn't many people there, but I thought it was good. It gives the teams and the players the feel of being in a pretty big time deal.
Yeah.
You're not at the Civic Auditorium anymore. The Civic Auditorium to me was old and outdated. This gives the players more of this is the next level, okay? And if we win this, then we go to the next level.
Right.
So I think it gives you that real sense of tournament feel. And you talk about Perry's system. When you play a lot of players like that, you get deep because you need more players.
Right.
And players see that and they go, I want to be a part of that. So I'm sure the 12-year-old's friends in 7th grade are going, wow, you know what? Maybe if I work a little harder in the off season, I can be part of that. They play 8, 9, 10 kids maybe at times. I have a chance.
That's one of my favorite stories surrounding the 8 teams going to state is that one with Abby Ducher just being 12 years old. And it's not like she's just on the team. She's a contributor. As Perry mentioned, she had a huge shot on Thursday night in the win over Tri-State. She is out there scoring the ball and making plays out there.
When she canned that three-pointer, like when Perry said they cut it to 7,
right.
When she canned that three-pointer, I went, wow, this is a talent here. This is somebody who's got a sense of this is a big shot, and I'm going to drain it. And I'm 12 years old.
Yeah, that's one of the fun stories that we'll be covering this upcoming week to get you ready for the Girls B. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll wrap this puppy up, get you ready for a fun sports Saturday here on 970 WDAY and WDAY.com.
This is the final segment of Kolpack and Izzo. I think you and I, Dom, have a similar viewpoint on this is a public job, and we put ourselves out there pretty much on a daily basis. Yep. You probably more than I with your opinions, but generally I try to keep my family situation out of it because, well, they don't sign up for being in part of the public discussion of, especially in the sports world. But I have to take a little detour. As you know, I wrote a book. Did you know that?
Yes.
And this week, I get an email from my teacher, and one of my son's assignments was to do a book project. Sometimes you wonder if they even pay attention. Like in my case, I don't even think he knew I wrote it. That was one of the quotes that my wife said, Dad wrote a book? That was his quote. He didn't even really know about it. But he did the synopsis as an English project on reading my book. And it was it's one of the best I've heard on the whole thing as far as wrapping it up into a minute 20. So let's play that right now.
Horns Up by Jeff Kolpack is about the North Dakota State Bison College football dynasty and how it became so great. It all started with the jump from going Division II to Division I FCS Football League. A guy named Joe Chapman, he was the president of NDSU back then, was a workhorse behind this, and without him, NDSU football wouldn't be what it is today. with them having 5 straight national championships in the last 5 years, and also 6 conference championships. When people all around the country think of North Dakota State nowadays, they think of one guy, and that is Carson Wentz. His journey to the NFL wasn't easy, but he made it, with a few more NDSU players going pro also. There's just something unique about the Bison that not a lot of people can understand. Their toughness mentally and physically, their courage and will to win is just a small part on how they become very successful through all these years. They're not the biggest team in the country, nor not the fastest team in the country, but somehow they just win all the time, including some big-time schools, like them beating Kansas State, Iowa State, and Iowa. Learn a lot more from reading Horns Up.
Now, that's 237 pages into a minute 20. That's pretty good.
Not bad. Not bad. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know he didn't know that you
wrote a book. I know. Well, I think we're not all about sports at home. I mean,
and that's
you
good.
might think we are, but
Nope,
I think we're a little more well-rounded. And we don't bring our jobs home and say, you know what, this is what Chris Kleiman said today. It's
You're better at it than I am. I'm trying to get that way and trying to leave my
well. You're on
my
the
job
beginning
here.
stages of it. I'm a little more advanced in this situation.
That's awesome. That's really cool to hear. That's good stuff. What do you get? Did you know his grade?
I don't
yet?
know, but I would hope.
I have to lean
good.
on him a little bit there at North High. Or,
I better not lobby. I don't know. Maybe the grades aren't in yet. Let's be fair about it.
We just got a tweet from our friend Mark Miller, Bison Rubin, North Carolina. Remember, he hosted us at Indiana State a couple years ago. He's at the Bison softball game in Columbia, South Carolina. NDSU lost 1-0 to South Carolina yesterday. They'll play the Gamecocks later today. They're playing their first game of a doubleheader right now. So
Darren Mueller put out a tweet on the facility at South Carolina, and he said it was one of the best. That's really, I think, the next step for NDSU's facilities argument is I think that softball needs to be obviously upgraded to Division I standards. I mean, it's not bad. The field itself is pretty good. I like the location back in there.
Yeah, it works fine. I think around it, though, it's not Division I.
Just need to up that a little bit.
What does this do, the budget shortfall, for NDSU's hopes of an indoor football facility?
Nothing. Football is going to be always a priority, and when it comes to winning, you're not going to take a back seat. Now, that'll be privately fundraised, obviously. You can't have state money. You're not going to have state money into an indoor football, so that's not going to happen.
So you're not
you know what's going to be called.
You're knocking on the door of the guy who plays quarterback for the Eagles, I'm assuming?
Knock, knock, knock. Number 11.
Well,
it's not going to be this year, next year.
Yeah.
These things typically are the next contract. Now, if Carson continues to have success that he has, his next deal is going to be absolutely a huge blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I'm not part of these discussions, obviously, but I would imagine you could say, okay, here's $3 million as part of my next contract into the Carson Wentz indoor football facility. Now, that's just all subjective discussion.
I wanted to get your thoughts here before we wrap up today. I posted a blog on our Bison Media Zone earlier this week about what's happened with the Bison women's basketball team. I asked Maren Walseth about this on Monday at her weekly press conference. She's nearing the end of her 3rd year, and I wanted to get her thoughts about what the status of the program is right now. And she said, and frankly, the wins obviously are not there, what she was hoping for. She did say the recruiting is where it wants to be, and the culture of what they're trying to do is getting there.
Maybe the culture is there.
I can't speak to that. I don't know. I'm not in the locker room.
We don't know. Yeah,
the
we don't know.
recruiting I can speak to,
and I don't think it's there.
I totally disagree with her on that. I don't see it now. For the players that I see, I've seen Michaela Renke play at Kindred. I've seen Tyler Irwin play at Wapping. I've seen Akili Moten play at West Fargo. I saw Lexi Clabo play at Fargo Davies. I saw Fallon Friggi play at Lakota before she went to UND. Those are all really good players. Now, for the 3 that are seniors now, I don't know how they'll be at the next level. I think Moten will be a very, very good college player. I'm not certain yet on Irwin. I think she's got to put some weight on before I think she can be a difference maker for Aaron Johnston. But I know that he can probably get it out of her. I'm not seeing it. And that's where, and I don't know what I was trying to get out of the blog, Kolpack, but I think it represents exactly what's around the Bison women's basketball team right now. Apathy. I didn't get any real.
There was
nobody
comments.
screaming. Yeah,
There's 3 comments.
Right. There was nobody screaming at me from the rooftops about, well, you're way off on this, or what are you talking about? And that is the worst part about where Bison women's basketball is at right now, because no one cares. No one cares.
400, 500, 600 people a game.
Right.
And that's a you talk about the budget shortfall. That's one area you could make it up is ticket sales.
And it's not happening in women's basketball. And I don't see it getting better next year. I don't see any of the women they're bringing in next year's class. I don't think Quilvang will be an impact player next year. She's got some muscle to gain in their strength and conditioning program before that happens. That might be a couple years away. And I'm seeing South Dakota and South Dakota State. IUPUI is really good in women's basketball. Western Illinois had a really good year. They're going
doable.
This way.
It's doable. In 2010 or 11, IUPUI won 1 year 4 games.
Yep.
The next year they won 3 games. They hired Austin Parkinson.
He's been really
I think
good.
He won 12 or 13 games his first year, and then they went to 20 wins.
Right.
It's doable in a couple years, but you got to find the players.
Right. And it takes the right coach to do that. And Walseth has 2 years left in her contract, and we know in the current state of affairs for NDSU's budget, there's no buyout happening there. Look at what they're doing with Carrie Thompson in volleyball. It's not going to go anywhere there. So just interesting to watch. The Bison women are going to be at the Summit League tournament this year. So I guess if you wanted to call it progress, Jeff, in quotation marks, they missed it last year. They're going this year. But they still only have 6 wins. And
4 Division I wins.
Right. And I just don't know if it's going to be any quick turnaround. We got to go. Thanks to our guests today, to Perry Piatz, Dean Wilson, Grant Olson, and Dave Richman for joining us. Bison men with a biggie tonight at Omaha. Kolpack will have coverage of that in the Forum tomorrow. Of course, our live hockey coverage starts at 5 o'clock with the Girls' Championship, Bismarck and Grand Forks, and then the Boys' Championship to follow between Central and Bismarck. Kolpack, we'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week, Tom.
All right, everybody. Have a great Saturday. This is Kolpack and Izzo on 970 WDAY. Heroes of the Heartland is up next here on 970 WDAY.